Okay, so hi Alia, hi Akshar.
Hello.
Hello.
So today, after a long hiatus, we are bringing the Grief podcast back again. I was personally, and Dr. Geeta was also busy in the last few months, and today we have we thought that the new year should be started with a fresh approach to the Grief podcast, and hence we have two very um, young adults, late teens, whatever we can call you, um, with
Young
us
adults
who
is
will share.
fine.
Yeah, young adults is fine. And your journey with what kind of griefs you have dealt in your life. We'll specifically talk about two to which I'll come. I'll introduce Aalaya first. So Aalaya is now a third year psychology student at Delhi University. Uh, and Akshar, who is also incidentally her brother, happens to be also joining the podcast. Who has recently joined college. He's a first year student of engineering at CBIT Hyderabad. So welcome both of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Bhaiya.
And we are recording this session very late at night. But I think late night discussions always, are more productive, and we are away from all the daily chores that we have to take care of, and the mind is quieter to have such discussions. So I think I'll just dive right into it. We are discussing two things today. The first discussion we have is about losing a pet and the grief associated with losing a pet, which I think many people would have realized in their lifetimes because even if you are a kid, as was in the case for you guys, you do see a pet passing away, either due to old age or some other illnesses or other things because the lifespan of generally dogs and cats are very small as compared to the human age. And secondly, then we'll delve into both of you are now in college. So the grief associated with the loss of home, that's what we would like to focus on. So let's start with loss of a pet first. And one of you, and maybe Alia, you can tell me what is the grief that you dealt with? What happened?
Okay, so in 2023 May, we lost our dog Jaanu, our pet Jaanu. And anyone who knows us knows that Jaanu was such an integral part of our family. Like he was there with us for 10 years. He
Mm.
came when I was 9 and Chandu was 7, and he passed away when Chandu was 17 and I was 19. So it was like he grew up with us. He was
Yeah,
not like a part of our childhood. He was
he
like our
was our childhood.
he was our childhood, and it was very difficult to deal with that.
Like he was like one of our siblings only. Like he was treated equal.
Yeah, even
Mm.
better, better than equal. Yeah.
Yes.
So I
So
think that
it's
was really
been,
difficult.
yeah. I think it's been, I think 3 to 4 years now since Janu has passed on.
Around that.
No, no, I think 2 years.
2 years.
One or
Two
2 years
years.
now. So
Yeah.
this was
But
what all I know of it. It was because of an illness that he passed
Yes.
off.
Like he
yeah.
was old, plus he had some kidney problems.
Right. So how was that period? Like you had a period where I knew I was speaking to you both, and you were saying that he's not keeping well. And I happened to meet Janu, I think a week or two before he passed away.
Yeah.
And he had just had an operation. So what was that time like when you knew he is not keeping well? And as young 17, 19-year-olds, how did you deal with that kind of a situation at home?
Like we knew like the he's not well, but we were telling ourselves that everything will be fine. He's gonna
Hmm.
survive.
Yeah, I think that was a very difficult period because I left for college in 2022. So I was not at home.
Hmm.
And I found out very late. I was told, I think, after he started getting drip twice a day, he was on IV drip. He used to get it twice a day. That's when
And
Mama told me.
and that kidney dialysis is not an option in small dogs.
Yeah,
Hmm.
or under
Okay.
a certain weight category. And since he was a miniature pinscher, since he was a small dog.
And it was
Hmm.
kept away from Jaanu because Jaanu was very attached to Jaanu and
Yeah,
even Jaanu.
yeah. I think Janu and I were like really connected, and he used to always sit with me. Shonu used to always sit with Chandu, but Janu was like my pet. We used to spend the entire day together. In like at night, he would sleep in my bed. So all of that was there. But I think
Right.
I feel a little guilty about it also. I think my his health started deteriorating after I left for college. I think me leaving for college like took a toll on his health. Sometimes I felt like if I was studying probably in Bhopal or in my own city, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Like all of these questions are always there in the back of my mind. Maybe he would still be with us today. Like I know that's not how it works, and
Yeah.
dogs obviously don't live more than a certain age, but
Yeah.
I don't know
You
the
still question yourself.
yeah.
Where
I
would
think
he?
very interesting points that you have brought about. One is that the breed of the dog was miniature pinscher. That is
Yes.
basically, if I have to put it in very crude words, it's an artificially created breed, right? You are
Yes.
purposefully making the dog smaller, so that it
Tiny
is
Doberman.
a tiny dog, a tiny Doberman who fits the size of nuclear human homes. At the same time, it is cute and it is less dangerous, so it is more amenable for people to keep as a pet.
Yes.
But in that
Yeah.
process, what we have known from research is that whenever you shrink something against its natural size, they will have health issues specifically because
Yeah.
there's not enough space, and how
Mhm.
how big an organ or a brain should have been, it's not that big. So do you
Not that big.
think, I mean, in context of what happened, do you think if it was a regular dog with the regular size, you think these kind of issues could have been avoided? It's just for human
What
pleasure
I
that we are creating such species.
what I think is if even if we search up average age of an Minpin is around 10 to 12 years. So Janu lived for a good 10 years. So what we
Mm.
feel is he lived a good life.
Mm.
Like even
Right.
if he had a normal dog like Labrador, German Shepherd, he would have lived similar life because
Yeah.
Janu was very healthy all his life.
Yeah, but I
Mm.
definitely agree that if you shrink something, the
Uh,
longevity factor
Mm.
is reduced. And as Chandu mentioned, if it was a regular sized dog or a dog above a certain weight category, he would probably be able to get like kidney dialysis and all
yes.
of that. But that was not
Yeah.
possible since he was such a small breed, and there's only like a limited amount of blood and there's a limited amount of pain that the dog can take, the tolerance. So I think that obviously takes a toll.
The smaller the species becomes,
Yeah.
it becomes more sensitive.
Hmm.
Right.
Plus,
Right.
he was already very, very, very underweight and he was not
Mm.
eating. He was on drip. So I think maybe that it was his time to go. He spent a good 10 years with us, but maybe that was his time.
And I can see that. I mean, the pain is still very evident when both of you speak about him. That brings me to another thing that you pointed out, the health facilities we have for smaller dogs and even regular dogs. I mean, I am living in this place called Itarsi that is uh, a mid-level town, you can say. You people earlier lived in
Yeah.
Bhopal, now both of you have moved out. Bhopal still, I think, has only a couple of clinics or hospitals that do blood tests and other tests for dogs. And such
True.
facilities, of course, they are not available at a tehsil level, in most of the country. So, how do you see that? When you're buying a pet, there has to be an ecosystem around it.
Hmm.
Such ecosystem exists only in metro cities and possibly tier one cities in India, but after that, it does not exist. Uh, then aren't you inviting inevitable grief because you will not be able to take care of the pet you're going to bring into your family, and then eventually you'll have to let them go at some point.
I mean, that is true. This grief we didn't even invite. Janu was a gift from one of Papa's colleagues to us. So we didn't even know that he was going to
Hmm.
come to us. We never, my mom always, she was like, no, I'm not getting a dog. And the two of you are enough trouble for me and all of that. But then when we eventually got
Mm.
Janu, we got him and he was, became a part of our family in Gwalior. And
Yes,
then
he
we lived
was
in,
Papa's birthday gift, and Papa
yeah.
knew that.
So
Okay.
we were in Gwalior, Indore, and Bhopal with Janu. He's lived in all three cities, and he's basically a Bhind boy. But
Okay.
yeah, all of these cities had okay level facilities, veterinary
Plus,
facilities, even if they were since I feel like we also come from a lot of privilege that
Yes.
we have the financial security to pay for that, pay for all
Plus,
of this.
if you see the medical facilities, you see that the good facilities are expensive and
Very
they're
expensive.
private.
Mm.
Like if
Hmm.
you go
Mm.
to the government medical place for dogs and pets, it is not as good as compared to the private ones, and the private ones
Right.
are really expensive. Like
Right.
the drip Janu was getting was like 1,200, 1,200, 1,300, 2 times a day, which is not very
Mm.
affordable for many Indian people.
Very
Yeah.
true. Very true.
But
So,
then we also have
yeah.
the privilege of a doctor coming over and
Yes.
giving him injections, and all of that was still like beck and call away. It was not like, oh, we had to travel a lot, we had to do all of that. So we lived in privileged cities, and we come from a
Yes.
privileged position. But obviously, to someone who lives in a place like Itarsi or any other place, which like the nearest veterinary hospital could be like
It's very far.
very far, and especially in dogs and animals in general, if the problem has reached a
Right.
point where you can see that the animal is visibly in pain, that already means that the problem has reached a certain stage. Like sometimes it's just beyond repair. If it is very visible, it's getting I don't know, it's getting manifested in their behaviors, it's getting manifested in the way that they're eating and sleeping and drinking. That already means that the problem has like
Yeah.
run its course. Yeah.
So, what is your memory of Janu now? Is it a happy memory, or whenever you hear the word
It is a
Janu, is it
happy
a sad
memory.
memory? It's happy memory.
I think
Yes.
it's bittersweet. It's
Mm.
Like
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 hmm.
we like, we always forget that how was the end. You only remember like the good sweet part.
And every time there's an occasion in the family, like, we have those like pictures. If it's my birthday, like all four of us, like me, my mother, my father, and Chandu, and then they're like both our dogs.
Uh,
And every birthday we think, oh, this is our first birthday without Janu, first anniversary without Janu, first this without
Mm.
Janu, like all of that. And now also, since we have another pet, Shonu, but we just never say Shonu. We always say Janu Shonu ko walk kara do. Janu Shonu ye kar rahe,
Mm.
Janu Shonu kar rahe. So it's like
Right.
I think even if he's not there with us physically, we think about him so much, and
Mm.
he's obviously a part of our lives. He's obviously a part of our childhood.
mm,
He's seen us grow up. We've seen him grow. Yeah,
like he was the reason we got Shonu
yeah,
because he was getting
Right.
old. See, we thought it earlier that we should get another
yeah.
dog.
Mm. Yeah. So I think I had noted it down as a question. But what helped you, come to this stage after a couple of years that you remember him fondly more than associating pain of having lost him? Or is it the realization that, he had a good life? Like, how did you come to it? Who helped you out? Was it your parents? Was it friends? Was it your own um, investigation of the whole thought?
For me, it took some time.
Mm.
With time, it became better. So for me, it was more friends, family. We used to talk about Janu, like only the happy part to Mama, Junu, Papa. So like
Mm.
it took some time, but it is now a happy memory forever for me.
I
And what
think for
about you,
me,
Alia?
when it happened, it was I think 10 days before my 19th birthday or something, and I was in Delhi. I was not in Bhopal, and when I found out, there was nothing that I could do. I don't think and I was also having my end semester exam. So my parents could not be there for me. I could not be there for them. Obviously, it was equally
How
difficult for
was how
them.
was that? I mean, how was giving exams having lost a dear family member slash pet so close to your
I
exam?
think
Maybe the first few exams that you would have faced in your college.
I think it was all yeah, I think it was my it was my second semester. And it obviously it plays in the back of your mind. Even if I want to focus, my mind would just keep thinking about, oh, what else could we have done to save him, or is there anything else that we could have done? Maybe if his diet was different, maybe if this was different, maybe
Mm,
if we did this and that, and all of that would be there. And I was going through a period where when you lose someone so precious to you, so important to you, you just have all of this love in your heart, and you
mm,
don't know what to do with it. So what I did was I got a tattoo. I was like, I don't know what to do with all of this love. I don't know how do I let myself know that this is going to be okay. Just didn't know what to do with all these emotions, because I feel like I was Chandu and I were discussing this the other day. that Janu was the very first real loss that we felt.
Mm.
We had lost our grandparents and our our Nana ji, our Nani, and our Dada before that. But I think we were really, really young, so we just never had the opportunity
At
to
the time, you
process all
cannot
of it.
process
We were
the
just too
loss.
young. So this was our first
Mm.
very real, very
Mm.
painful loss of our lives, and I
Right.
think both of us dealt with it very
Mm.
differently.
Actually, it took some time to process because even after his loss, we used to remember that, oh, take Janu for a walk, feed Janu. We used to forget that he's no more. So it
Hmm.
was
Mm.
actually quite tough at random times, accidentally remembering that he's no more.
Hmm.
Right.
That switch from present tense to past tense. So Janu ऐसा है और Janu ऐसा था. Like the is and
Mm.
was. That switch
Was
was also
was
very
I
difficult.
was
difficult. Yeah.
actually wanting to come to that point, and you brought it up because I know that you lost your grandparents uh, before this happened. How was it different? I mean, there is a human. I mean, I'm being very crude here when I say this, but then there is you're losing
Hmm.
a human, and then you're losing a pet, so to say. At the end, it's a human versus animal distinction.
Hmm.
How was it for you? Like, was it because grandparents are something that your parents were more attached, you saw them for a less time, and maybe their relation to you was primarily via parents and then individually? And with Janu, it was primarily direct relation as soon as he came home for the first time.
I think for us, we are basically Telugu people like from Andhra and Telangana living in Madhya Pradesh. So I think we only saw our grandparents once in a year or twice in a
Twice in
year.
a
But
year.
Janu was a part of our
Like
life.
he
Like
was
from the
constant.
minute that we woke up to the minute that we slept, he
Right.
was just always there. I think that proximity factor, his role in our
Mm.
everyday lives also, I think plays.
Plus, if you lose someone so early, like we were 13, 14, so you cannot actually think that what happened. Now we think
Mm.
that, oh, we miss going to our nanny's place. We used to miss
Mm.
this. But at that point,
Yeah.
it was different. It was like we cannot process what actually happened
Yeah.
because
We just didn't have the
Yeah.
emotional or the mental but to just understand what has just happened. You would just be like, oh, that's just not a part of our lives anymore. Maybe that's
So
all it is.
did this occurrence then of Janu passing away helped you understand what had happened with your grandparents earlier?
yes, probably.
Yeah, yeah. We have discussed this
We
before
have
also.
discussed
Yeah.
Yeah.
this.
I mean,
Okay.
I think grief is not something like, oh, it's not like you are okay and then you are not okay or you are grieving. I think it's like a continuum of like normal and
Mm.
abnormal. It's just, it's
It
all
never
at the
goes.
same time. It just
It's there.
It's always there. I
Mm.
think when we talk about Janu, we also talk about like grief in general, how it was losing our grandparents and how we don't have a nani ka ghar to go anymore. Like we
Mm.
now, even
We used to love going there.
yeah,
Yeah.
even now when summers are there, we just don't know what to do with our summers because for us it used to always be like, oh, nani ka ghar and this and that. So I think when we talk about grief, we talk about it like as a whole.
Mm. And I mean, but I think my story in that context of losing grandparents was very similar to yours. I had already lost my nana before I was born, but then I lost the other three when I was around between 11 to 14 or 15 years of age. So that was like a span of 3 to 4 years, and it was very similar in your case also. And then I didn't understand much about it. But then later on, life taught me that, what it meant to lose uh, parents as such. Has it ever, and I don't know, I mean, you're too young for me to ask this, but has it spurted a thought ever that how does it feel to lose a parent? Like for your parents to have lost their parents, have you ever had that thought कि उनको कैसा feel हुआ होगा?
I mean, we do think about like sometimes Chandu and I we talk about like, oh,
It is very difficult for mama
yeah.
because
Hmm.
there's no one who actually knows more about you. Like your parents know everything about you.
Hmm. Right.
So like we do talk to mama about that, and she tells me like she rejoices all the parts like which she spent with their parents. So, yeah, I think we're not at that level that
Yeah.
we can process that grief.
Right.
And I don't think we have talked about what it would feel like to like lose
Hmm.
our parents.
Hmm.
Was I don't know. We
No,
just
of
never
course. I
talked
mean,
about
I'm not
how.
uh,
Mhm.
saying that that's the thought you should have had, but then I just, it was
I
just
wanted to ask.
curiosity.
I wanted to ask a question. How did it feel when you lost your pet?
With
When you
Bullet,
lost
I mean,
Bullet?
you lost Bullet.
So my situation was very different. Bullet was very young for a German Shepherd. He was around 9 or 10 years old when we lost him, and or even younger actually. He was around 8 years old, and he was not living with me at that point of time because I had moved to Bombay, and he was living with our cousins because my brother was somewhere, I was somewhere. I had just lost my parents a couple of years back. So because of that, I was not in a situation to keep him with me. So that is the first guilt I had when we lost him, that he was not there with me when he passed away. And I do not actually know the scenario or conditions that he passed away in. Was he not taken care of well? Was not fed well? Was he missing the family that he was raised with? All those questions. And I was informed about him over a call. And unfortunately, I was not even given a chance to cremate him. He was already cremated by the time I got the news. So it was very devastating for me. I mean, it was again, as you said, it was like losing a family.
Mhm.
And the when you see it in movies with humans, or with parents, or people exclaim कि मैं एक बार उनको देख लेता, I wanted to see him or her
Mhm.
the last time.
Mhm.
That's actually the feeling I got. Even if
Mhm.
my pet had gone, I had
Mhm.
this urge of looking at him once, you know, the last time.
Mhm.
And that I didn't get that opportunity, and I still feel guilty for it. And that was my next question to you. Like, do you feel guilt about
I think,
did
yeah.
you feel you did everything? That question comes to you. Of course, you did everything you can. But how do you deal with that guilt?
I think first of all, like I'm sure it must be really difficult to lose a Bullet for you,
Yeah.
especially after you lost your parents and that. And Bullet was such a wonderful dog. Like his personality was unlike any other German Shepherd I'd met in my
He was
entire
the
life.
calmest German Shepherd we know.
He was just so calm.
Yeah.
He would just keep to himself, a thorough gentleman. So yeah. And yeah, I completely agree. And with grief comes guilt. Like because when someone's there, you always feel like, अच्छा बाद में कर लेंगे. Later we'll
Hmm.
do this, we'll do that. But
But you'll never know what will happen
So that
Hmm.
later.
obviously is there. We all thought that if we were maybe in a bigger city, we could give him the medical attention that he needs, or
Hmm.
maybe the resources would be there. Or sometimes we would think that maybe if his diet was different, or maybe if we had done the operation earlier, or all of these questions are always there in back of our mind. But now we've come with like there are the 5 stages of grief, and now we're at the last stage. We're at acceptance. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
we did whatever we could,
Hmm.
and
And everyone
now he's just not
brings
in
their
pain
own
anymore.
destiny, yes.
Yeah. And for us, we could see that he was visibly in so much pain, so much
Hmm.
pain. So sometimes we just think maybe he's just not in pain anymore. We're just glad that he's not hurting anymore.
He's in a better place now.
Yeah.
Right. So you also had Shonu, who just made an appearance in the podcast for a brief moment, and then I think she lost interest and went away. But you had Shonu after Janu, went away. And generally, we see in the case of pets, if it's a singular pet who passes away, it's more difficult than when you have another pet at home. Do you think it's generally easier? Would you recommend that, you have multiple pets at home so that, because animals, you don't know what can happen to them, where do they catch an infection from, what do they eat, you can't control their behavior as much. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you guys feel that it was better that you had Shonu as another pet while Janu passed away?
Like the situation was little better with Shonu because we had at least someone. Like if Shonu was not
Mm.
there, we had would have not have anyone.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think she kept us going. It was like, okay, even if Janu is not there, we'll distract ourselves, take Shonu for a walk at least, or we'll make sure that she is getting her meals at time. It's not like we didn't have a pet anymore. We
Hmm.
still at least had a pet. And obviously, Janu's void, it's not like we're trying to fill Janu's void with Shonu. No, Janu was his own person, and Shonu is her own person. Not even person, like her own dog or whatever. But we
Mm.
could see that she was also grieving. It was, I don't know
Hmm.
how to explain it, but Like she would just, I think for a couple of days, she was not eating. She was not going for her walks. She would just sit silently, quietly at one corner, and she would, anytime someone would open the door, she would just wait to see
See,
if maybe Janu came or
like Janu was a parental figure for Shonu.
Right,
That type
yeah,
of
right.
yeah.
No, I think we have
So
also had that situation at our home. We had an elder dog and then we had another one. And there was this master and
hmm.
learner kind of a hierarchy going on.
Hmm.
Uh, so you saw a case of, you knew that he is not keeping well, and then, gradually it deteriorated. There are cases where, there's an accident or, the dog runs into a car or something. Do you ever feel that kind of a threat now having lost a pet with the current pet you have? कि इसके साथ कुछ ना हो जाए, इसको कुछ ना हो जाए. Is that fear, has that fear been generated after the loss of the first pet you had? Are you more careful around your pet now?
like Janu was more sensible, but with
Mm.
Shonu, she's like a really hyperactive dog. She runs towards the cars, and like we are little scared of because of Shonu. Like this can happen, and she also ran so many times from home.
yeah, she
Like
runs away.
she runs away, she runs towards the cars. So that the thing is there that this might happen, but
So
we
I'll
cannot
I'll
do
tell you what,
anything.
why I was asking that question is that, before losing your first pet, you don't have the concept of losing a pet, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
But like in my mind now, if I keep a dog and if it goes
Hmm.
missing, my first thought is ki, oh, she might be dead. That's my
Yeah, I
first
can.
thought. So has that happened with you? That's what I wanted to know.
Created multiple probabilities that that might happen,
Yeah.
this might happen. So it is there. The
Mm,
thought of that the pet is no more is created.
right.
The
And
thought that
how
something could potentially happen is always there. And I think with Shonu, we've observed one more thing that with Janu, unless and until it was something really serious, we would not be like, chalo, doctor ko dikhate hain. But with Shonu, if
mm,
she's
Hmm.
limping, we would just take her to the doctor just so that we would make sure
Uh,
ki we hope,
everything is
yeah,
fine.
everything is fine, or if there's anything, it can be cured or prevented. And so I think that is there. We've become a little more vigilant or hyper vigilant with
yeah,
that. I think now that we know what it feels to lose a pet or lose a dog, now that fear is there back of our mind. We're like, if we lose her, how would we feel? Earlier, we didn't
Hmm.
even know what it would feel like to lose
Hmm.
a pet. I think as a
right,
family, as individuals. So now we know if
right.
like there is a possibility, like as he said, there's a probability that something can happen at any given moment. But with Janu, since he had an illness and we knew that he's not keeping well, and we were somewhere just not ready to accept that he might pass away. But if it was an accident, I think we would be more shocked. We would not be able to have the time to mentally prepare ourselves.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And I think the next thing I wanted to ask you guys is both of you have now moved out to bigger cities. You're living in Delhi, Aalaya, and Akshar, you're in Hyderabad. And people who have pets generally empathize with dogs on street or other animals on the street. Uh, One sees uh, animals on the street in poor conditions. Generally, they have some scars, or they are bitten off by other dogs, or they are damaged through cars, or trucks have run over them. Those are very micro griefs that come your way every day. You're walking to your college and you see a dog lying on the road,
Hmm.
not keeping well. You can't help him or her, but still, you feel that micro grief. What do you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you deal as a empathetic person towards animals generally? Because you have had pets at home. How do you deal with that at your age?
Like what I feel is there is nothing I could have done. Like I was not there, present at that moment. I was not there. So there is nothing I could have done. So there is a grief that, oh, someone lost their life. But there's also this thing is, it just happened. You cannot do anything.
Right.
Yeah, but I think when you see a hurt or injured animal,
Injured animal.
then you try, you want to do as much as you
Hmm.
can. I think if I see an animal on the road or if
Which
I
has
see
scar, huh?
or something, I would try to do my best. But there is not a there's I can't be sure that there's something that I can do, or if I'm just
Hmm.
if it's near a metro station, if I'll ever come back there again. But I think since I live in a hostel and we are surrounded by a lot of cats and kittens, so we try to do as much as we can. We try to uh, get some food, get some cat food, get replace their water bowls time and time again, and just if someone has an infection, or we can put it in the hostel group like, oh, this cat is not keeping well, if anyone's knows any resources to help it, like, please share and all of that. So I think when it's within our control, when it's possible for us to help, then we can help. But I don't think I feel bad about it also, but I don't think I'm going out of my way to help an animal or help a dog. But I try to
Right,
do as much as I can within in my vicinity, in my surroundings.
Hmm.
right. If more people do that, I think, those dogs will have a good life.
Yes, surely.
Uh,
I
I
think,
personally, both of have become an advocate for adopting uh,
Ah,
yes.
street desi dogs, and yeah, that has been a very big learning in the sense that it's not the breed of the dog that matters. It's basically the dog which is at your home, whichever dog
Truly.
it is. Um,
And I think one more change
yeah.
that I've seen before I got a dog, the first thought is, wo kaatega, or you
hmm.
Mm.
have this catastrophic point of view that maybe the dog, like, you go in with the expectation that the dog is going to be aggressive, or just going to bite you or going to bark at you. But now that we have our own dogs, now we think that maybe if a particular dog is being aggressive, that is because that dog has a problem,
Hmm.
or the dog is not comfortable. We don't,
Yeah.
we, both of us are the kind of people that if we see a dog on the street, we would probably go and pet it, because
Yes.
we don't
Mm.
see the dog with that point of view, कि, "Oh, this one is trying to hurt us," or anything like that. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a dog, it's a pet, it's a,
Even though I've got bitten by dogs like 5, 6 times, I still go,
yeah.
still pet them like
Yeah. He's had his whole rabbit pure cycle done three times now.
3, 4 times.
Yeah, I've had it done
Yeah.
twice.
I
The
think
all the
all dog
five.
owners and all pet lovers have had that. I myself
Could be that.
have seen it twice in the last 4 years or 3 years. I've had that vaccination done. My last question on this topic to you is knowing that pets have smaller lives as compared to us, knowing that they'll only be with you for 10, 12 odd years if they have a good life. Otherwise, it could be lesser than that also. Should people who are thinking about pets and are very emotional people, should they take it like it's inevitable grief eventually? That's as I said earlier, you will see them die in your lifetime. Why should one still take it on? Why should one still take that grief on, survive it for 8 years and then eventually have a crash at the end of 8 years? I'm asking your perspective as young 18, 19, 20 year olds.
Because the time you have that pet for 8, 10 years, 12 years, the memory is so beautiful that
Yeah,
it compensates for the grief. Like the
truly.
amazing part, like they don't have anything take from you. They're not materialistic.
It's unconditional.
The amount of love they give, it compensates grief, what I feel.
And I read somewhere that the cost of love is the chance of loss. So I think that is something that's sort of there at the back of my mind. Like, I would, when I grow up and I have my own family, and I have my own life and my own house, I would eventually want a pet. Knowing that this
Right.
pet will pass away before I do, I would still want to
Hmm.
keep a pet, because I think they just add so much light and
Hmm.
so much positive energy to your life that you know, even if it's inevitable, you want to do it. You want them to be a part of your life.
Makes sense. I think both of you had it looked like it was prepared answers, but I know that, it's from the heart from both of you. That's such a good note to end it on. And, I was reading today when I was researching for this podcast, and I came across a very beautiful line that says that some people will never understand how much you love a dog or how much the dog loves you, but it's okay because the dog understands,
That is
Hmm.
so true.
right? I think all of us are on the same page when it comes to that. The
I just wanted to
eyes,
add, Mhm.
yeah, I mean the eyes that the dog gives you as soon as you're home, that's enough to,
That wagging of
uh,
the tail, the
yeah,
Hmm.
That one
So
movement, that one gesture from the dog is enough to make your day.
truly. So I lost my dog in 2023, and so did my roommate, Shreya. She also lost her dog in the same year, within the same 6 month period, I think. So when I was talking about support, I think I would give a shout out to Shreya because Shreya was there for me when I had lost my dog, and I was there for her when she lost her dog. And I think when I lost my dog, her dog was already, she had a Tibetan Mastiff who was already very old. And I think when she saw me grieve, she started preparing herself, is what I felt. And when I saw her go through the same thing, I could actually understand what she's feeling at any given moment. I saw her go through all 5 stages of grief. She saw me go through all 5 stages of grief. So I think when you know that someone else is going through a similar situation, it just feels a little better to know that somebody out there understands your pain. Like someone who's never had a dog, as you said, will never understand what it feels like to have a pet or lose a pet. But as long as the dog understands, I think
Mhm.
that's what that matters. Yeah.
Actually, you have hit it on the nail. I think that's what this podcast eventually is for, that through this conversation, many people outside who might be in a situation of pain because of their pet, or have lost a pet, or are planning to get a pet, they get a perspective on when you lose them, which you eventually will in your lifetime. This is the only thing that's certain, that you will see a pet die if you live a fuller life. If you live your whole lifespan, you will see a pet die in front of you. How to deal with that? That's a given. That pain will come to you. So maybe this
Truly.
is where we end this topic. And thank you. I mean, the perspective I've gotten from you is something I did not imagine that we'll be talking about.
Mhm.
And we will move on to the next issue that we have. But maybe we can make this a two-parter thing, and do this
We
in
can do
one
that.
part and do it in the next part. All right.
We can.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bhaiya.